Hi there, this is Andre Storer with Lkthru, and in this video I'm going to be taking you through the process of adding a website to Lkthru and how to build it out and all the different features that we've got built in. Now if this is your first time logging into Lkthru, you're going to want to make sure that you go over to the right hand corner, go to profile, and make sure you filled in your information there, your full name, your mailing address, make sure your email address is correct, your PayPal email address is in there, and then just hit update profile. This is just a test account in order to be able to do the training, so I don't have the correct fields filled in, but just once you log in, make sure you get those taken care of. We're going to go over to just the main area now. This first page is going to show you how many sites are in the queue and how many sites are currently generating. In order to load up your site, you're going to go over to My Sites and hit Show All Sites. Now, the first time you're going to log in, obviously you're not going to have any sites in there. I haven't added any sites to here, and I haven't done anything other than have a cPanel account activated. If you're using Brain Matter hosting for your sites, you'll get a cPanel with them. That's where you're going to add up all your own sites. If you're using your own hosting, you might have something set up with WHM. And when you're adding the new site, I'll show you what the difference would be if you're using WHM to have a new cPanel for every site, or if you have all your sites under one cPanel, which is what Brain Matter hosting does. So let's just jump right into it. I'm going to click on Add a New Site, and I'm going to leave this open, but I'm going to go over to my cPanel that I have with Brain Matter hosting, and you're going to want to jump down to Add-on Domains. You'll go ahead and put in your domain name there. And I'm just going to use a domain name to be able to do the demo. Now it automatically adds in these two fields. Let's go ahead and leave those. Pay attention to this public HTML one. This one we're going to need. I'm going to use the password generator. Actually, I've got a password already copied up here, so I'm going to use that one, but normally you use the password generator or just a really strong password, and we're going to add the domain. If you did everything correctly, you should get this notification screen here. I'm just going to go back so I can see the add-on domain, because I'm going to need to copy some of the information from here. But if we go over to the ATM, the first thing that we see is the site name. This is actually what's going to show up as the that's going to be the name of the blog. Normally under normal WordPress settings, it's just the title. If you go to settings general under WordPress. So I'm just going to name this College Lead Gen Demo. The URL, make sure you always start with http:// the domain.com and end with a /. So I'm going to copy it from over here. And I'm going to just go ahead and type in http:// and end in a /. Username, it's what's going to be the admin password when you log into WP Admin. I'm just going to make this admin the password. What you would use for the password, I'm going to use password 123. The FTP domain should just be ftp dot what the site URL is. So in this case, collegeleadgendemo.com. Make sure you type that in, ftp dot. And we will be adding an entry into Cloudflare. Since this is with Brain Matter hosting, you have to use Cloudflare in order to make sure everything worked correctly. So I'll be showing you how you add the FTP entry into Cloudflare if you're using your own hosting and you're just using the regular name servers that come with your own hosting. Setting it up like this should work just as well. The FTP username is actually the main cPanel username. So in my case, when I created the add-on domain, it gave me a different username over here, but I'm just going to use the main cPanel username, which a lot of times will show it here in this home, whatever follows that, so that will be your username. In my case, it's demo0003. You've also will receive this with Brain Matter Hosting in your welcome email. It tells you what your cPanel username is and your cPanel password. So just make sure you look for that information. And I've got mine saved over here. Now the FTP path, this is one of the most important areas, one of the ones that causes a lot of issues. When you do an add-on domain, if we go down to add-on domains again, the FTP path will be shown right here, which is this public HTML /, and a lot of times it's just the domain name .com. But you got to make sure that you look and see what this folder is. Make sure see if it's got any uppercase or lowercase, because it would mess things up if it is all in uppercase. And the best way to make sure is when you're actually adding on the domain, when you're doing the add-on here, and we start typing it in, notice that it automatically fills it in right there. So the best way would actually be to make sure you copy this before you leave the screen. I didn't copy it when I was doing it, but if I just type it back in here, it's going to give me the correct setup. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste it over to FTP path. Now the main difference is if you're not using Brain Matter Hosting and you're using your own hosting account, and you've got you're using WHM to add a new cPanel account for every single one of your sites, then what you would put in here more than likely would just be public HTML by itself. No / or anything, just public HTML, because that's where basically this is saying where are the files for this particular website going in. For this particular website, it's an add-on domain, and it's going, the files are going in here. Another way to be able to get this URL is if you actually click on it, you should be able to get it from up here in the file manager. You can copy and paste it from there. Now let's say if you're doing a subdomain, the only difference here would be the way that subdomains work is when you're creating the subdomain, it will once again give you right here what that public HTML should be. So it could be a subdomain of this account, and then it will show you what you should put into public HTML, into the field here for the FTP path. For this particular website, we're just going to leave it just like this, and then I'm going to click Add Site. Now that the site is added into the account, I've created the site in the cPanel add-on domain, but we need to add this particular website to Cloudflare in order for it to resolve correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and jump over to Cloudflare. We're going to, I already have a Cloudflare account. I'm just going to log into my Cloudflare account, and I'm going to go ahead and add this college lead gen demo 1.com. Right away it's going to start loading up the website, and for some reason Cloudflare's been a big buggy with adding websites lately. So if you notice that this is going on for a little bit, just kind of click on the Cloudflare icon just to kind of go back to the home page, and you'll notice here that it's got your website added on. You want to continue setup, and it should take us to a page where it's actually scanning the domain records, the domain name records, the name servers and all that. And it's telling us usually this will be a video here. Now for some reason I guess the plugin on my browser at the moment is outdated, but this will be a video. You might just want to pause it the first time around, and then it's telling us that it's scanning the records. So let me just pause the video while it's doing that. Once it's completed its scan, we can just hit continue. And then sometimes it will have some stuff added on there. What I like to do is I actually like to just clear out everything that's in there so that I can just add my own records and make sure that I haven't made any mistakes. The first record we're going to add is just type in the @ symbol, and we're going to point it to the IP of our cPanel. So in your welcome email for Brain Matter Hosting, you might have gotten your IP on there, or you can also sometimes find that right within your cPanel it shows what your IP address would be. So I'm going to grab that IP, I'm going to add that one. You're also going to add an FTP record, point it to the same IP, and hit add. And then finally you're going to do a CNAME for www, and then that one goes to just the URL, the main domain, and you hit add. Now once we've added these, we got to make sure that the @ record that we've created and the www have this little orange cloud. That means that Cloudflare is activated for those two. FTP, this FTP record is what the ATM app is going to use to connect to your website, and we don't want to run that through Cloudflare so that we get a direct connection to your server, and that way it prevents any issues. Once you've done that, you can add all your missing, say you've added all your records, leave all these settings as basic, as whatever they have on their default, and then it tells you what you need to change your name servers to within your registrar. And I'm not going to show that on video because every registrar is different, but with Namecheap, just do a quick YouTube search how to change name servers with Namecheap, or how to change name servers with GoDaddy or Bluehost or whatever registrar you're with, and it will quickly show you how to update those name servers to the correct ones. Just make sure you use those two, and once you've done that, you can hit I've updated my name servers. I'm going to pause the video real quick. I'm going to do that and then pick back up as soon as that's done. Now after I've hit continue, it will show me this, and it's just saying that it's waiting for the name servers to change. Usually that change could be automatic. Other times it could take up to 24 hours. I'm going to continue on with the training as we're going through. The change should take effect, able to show you to make sure what you need to check to make sure that it's been done correctly. So I'm going to go back over to the ATM app. Now before we can actually build out any sites, we need to work with a custom list. Custom list, the way we've been using them for the long time, is just targeting cities. We like to build these sites, making them city targeted down to the city level, so that we can build a site pretty much targeting the whole United States, 30,000, 40,000 cities in the United States. We've added the custom list ability so that you can now target whatever area specifically you need to target. So if you just need to work in just a more condensed geographical area, you don't have to target the whole 40,000 United States. But the way these work is you jump over to custom list and you want to create a list, and then when you go to add a new custom list. Now basically I have a Excel sheet here with just the city list that we've got saved into the app, and it has the state, the city, and the zip code. And I'm going to create it in such a way so that these all line up perfectly together, so that I can use different combinations of what these will be called, these custom shortcodes. So the first one that I'm going to use is I'm just going to use the city, and I'm going to select all these. I'm just going to copy these. I'm going to paste it into this first one here. Now I'm going to name this one just city. Make sure that you use double brackets, so bracket, bracket, city, and close with bracket, bracket. And if you want to get a hold of this specific list that I have here, we've actually got them loaded up right in here, so you can just right click on this, save link as, and save it to your computer. It should be an Excel file, or actually it's a zip file. Go ahead and extract that, and inside that you'll find the different lists that we originally had loaded into the system, but now giving you the ability to just pick and choose what areas you want to use, or if you want to continue building whole US sites, just use the list as is. But I'm going to add the cities first. Then I'm also going to add the state, which will be the full spelling of the state. And since I'm working off of an Excel spreadsheet, it's very easy to see that I've got everything lined up one-to-one correctly. So good idea to make sure if you're going to be working with your own list, make sure you work off of Excel. I'm also going to add the abbreviation. So I'm going to make it maybe state short, so it's easy. And then finally, the zip code. Now, in order for the system to know that all these are related to one another, we need to go down to custom list, and we're going to pack this list. Basically what this means is that it tells the system that all these lists are associated to one another, and that whenever we are building content with these specific shortcodes in them, it knows how to properly line them up, so that if you put in city, it pulls up the correct city, the correct state, and the correct state abbreviation, and the correct zip code for that specific post. So we need to name this pack list. I'm just going to name it US list. The main list should be, in most cases, it's just going to be the city. So the main thing that's differentiating everything. The second list, which is going to be used for categories, should be a list that, if we take a look at my list here, that repeats almost. It repeats itself because it's more generalized. So that's why we use those for categories. That way we can split things up nicely in the website. If we're doing US, obviously, we end up with 50, 51 categories. I believe we've got the District of Columbia in there as well. So, just keep that in mind when you're creating your list. You're going to want one that you end up with a lower number of categories. You don't want to end up with 30, 40,000 categories on your WordPress site, because it will probably just make it unusable. Just way too many categories for a site. So just make it something to where it's going to split it up into 40, 50 categories or so, and you'll have the best results that way. So I'm going to select state. That's going to be used for categories. Then it could be state short and zip code. So the important one is the main list and the second one, and then the third list and fourth list can just be the other shortcodes. But by hitting submit, it packs them up and it lets us know that all these are associated, and we'll see what happens when we go create the content, what it does with those. Now let me show you a few different more things. We have also the ability to add in your custom shortcodes. What these means are pretty much the way we want you to consider them are just snippets of either data or content that you tend to use over and over again. So this is something to kind of consider as a shortcut for you. You don't need them to start out, but as you're building more and more sites, you may notice that you tend to use the same closing paragraph for every single one of them. So instead of having to type in that paragraph every single time, you can just add a shortcode and have it in there. Or you tend to use the same video on every single one of your sites, or maybe like 30 sites that you're putting through, you're going to use the same exact video. So instead of having to type in the video code every single time, you can have it in here. So kind of give you an example. If I'm going to add a new shortcode, I'm going to make it, let's say I'm using the same closing paragraph for every single one of my sites. I can go ahead and I've got a text editor window here, and I've got this paragraph that I want to use. It's a super spun paragraph, and I'm going to use it at the closing of every single one of my content, every single one of my websites. Now, since it's a spun paragraph, we're going to make sure that we tell the system that this content needs to be spun, and we can add this data. Now, if it was something like a YouTube, just a YouTube iframe, then we would add the shortcode. We would just name it maybe video, always with the brackets, and we would put in the the iframe in here, and it would not be spun, and we can just add that data. So it just depends on what you're using it for. This is obviously just for an example, but it just gives you, as you're building more and more sites, you'll notice that you might tend to do the same things either at the beginning of the content or at the end of the content, and you find some way to automate it and use it as a shortcode. Then this gives you a way to kind of cut the time of building the sites. You also want to go over to scripts, and you're going to want to add a new script. What scripts are, they go in the header and footer, so things like the Google Analytics code, or if you're using Piwik for tracking, or you have the Bing Webmaster Tools that needs to go in the header, those kind of things. So you're going to add the new script, and if you don't have anything right now, you don't want to put in a analytics code or anything like that, just name it blank and leave the two areas blank and just add the script. You're going to need, at least when you're building out the site, when you're deploying the site, you're going to need to choose a script. So if you don't have anything to add right now, just name it blank and to be able to start building the sites. But as you're building sites and you decide that you do want to add a new tracking code or anything like that, just add the script, choose whether it's going to go in the footer or header. And these are things that are, obviously, you're copying things directly from, if you're doing Piwik, Piwik will tell you, or if you're following our training for Piwik, it will tell you what code you need to put in here. So these are code type stuff that you're putting in here. It's not any kind of keywords or anything like that, and it needs to be set up as code. So a lot of times you're just going to be copying and pasting from the specific program that tells you need to insert it into the header or footer, and you'll know, if they're asking you to do that. The spinner, just to show you real quick, is just an area to kind of test your spun text. So if you've got something with syntax in it and you want to test it out, make sure that it spins correctly, you can just paste it in there, hit spin it, and it's going to show you you can do it a couple times, and it's going to show you how it spins out, and you can see if everything's correctly. Or for example, I don't know if you noticed, but one of the times, like this one here, notice that I don't have a title anymore. So there's something wrong with my H3 tag that I need to fix if I wanted to make sure that it worked correctly every single time. And finally, we've got the content. If the content obviously makes up the content of your website, and we can just go to add new content. Now we've got the content title, meta description, tags, categories, and just your basic content editor type here. Everything that normally you would find in a WordPress website, and that's how we're going to treat it. The content title, same as your post or page title in a blog. It also becomes your URL slug, so that's needs to be SEO optimized. And what I like to do is I'll just start with almost like a base type setup, and then once I go to deploy the site, which is another instance, I'll kind of clean it up and make sure that all my shortcodes are in there perfectly. And so this is my content title. Meta description is obviously the description that shows up in the Google search results, so it's something that you want to type it in such a way that it entices the click, but it's also SEO optimized at the same time. And the way you optimize things is by using the shortcodes, but we don't have the shortcodes in here right now. We get those once we actually go to deploy the site. So I'm just going to load in my meta description for Google. The tags, I'm just going to add in tag 1, tag 2, and we'll clean these up before we deploy it. And then category, same thing. My category, and we'll just put in here, this is my content. Now in order to save this, we want to make sure we add this content. Once the content is added, then we have the option to be able to deploy this. We click on WP, and this is when I actually make the changes, the final changes to my content to make sure it's got all my shortcodes and everything perfectly. The first thing that it's going to ask us is to select your pack list. So this is the custom list that we created and we packed it earlier. We're going to use this US list in order to be able to make sure we take advantage of all the cities and states and zip codes that we loaded up in there. Notice the second I selected the list, I've got some new buttons here that if I click them, it's going to add these different shortcodes in my content. So anywhere I add those, it's going to replace them with the correct city, the correct state short, and zip code. So now that I've got those visible, I can make sure that I'm not going to make any mistakes. Then I can modify these title, meta description, the tags, and categories to make sure they've got the correct shortcodes in there to make sure they're fully optimized for that city, that state, and that zip code that I'm trying to rank for. So I'll do something like, my keywords in city, state, and zip code. So just something random will be, my keywords in Jacksonville, Florida 32092, and maybe, can also do like find keywords in state short. So it's got the state abbreviation as well. Same thing for the meta description. We want to make sure that we're using those shortcodes in there, make sure it's all fully optimized for that specific city. We have it make it fully relevant for that city or that zip code or whatever we're trying to rank for specifically. Now the tags, every single tag needs to be unique to every post. So the tags themselves too need to make sure that we have a good combination of those shortcodes. So maybe something like city zip code will make sure that every single tag is unique for every other post, that there's no repeating tags. And it just depends on how your list is set up. I know for sure that my list doesn't have the two city state short, so it doesn't have two Atlanta Georgias. It's just one Atlanta Georgia, and it doesn't. Or if it does have two Atlanta Georgias, then I can't just put city and state short. I also have to add in the zip code because I know I'm not going to have the two zip codes that are repeating. Every zip code will be unique. So make sure you've got something in there that's going to make it fully unique. You can have between 8 to 10 tags is what we recommend in the tag amount. You can play around with that, but we've had the best results with that. And then the category, if you remember when we created the custom list, I made the category, the state was going to be based off of, is what we're basing our categories off. So I would do something like my keyword category and state. Now when we're creating our content, just see this as a basic WordPress post. We've got all the different editors here to be able to bold, italicize, underline. We've got the styles to be able to actually here to be able to do the different headings, H1, H2, H3. So you just apply your basic HTML SEO on-site, on-page knowledge to create these sites. Make sure they're fully optimized for your keywords, that you're using related keywords in the content, and that you're definitely spreading these shortcodes all over. Just for the sake of the example, I'm going to keep it just very simple, very short. My new content about my keywords and city, state, zip code, so that gives you a good idea. Now we also have a few other things you could do, such as a Google map. If you wanted to add a Google map, just make sure that when you click on Google Map, it's going to add a shortcode here, but you need to replace what's inside here with an actual combination of city-state if you're using a city-state type setup. So just make sure you add in your shortcodes for city-state, or if it's just a zip code, you can just put in zip code in there, but make sure whatever is in between the quotes, some kind of modifier in order to create a unique Google map for that. And notice on the right hand side we've got the custom shortcodes that we've added, either the video tag or the video shortcode that I created, or the closing paragraph. So let's say that I finished up my article, I want to have the same closing paragraph for all my sites. I'm going to use that closing tag there, and it's going to take that spun paragraph that I added as a closing shortcode. It's going to spin it and just add a unique paragraph to the end of this article here. You also have the option of using S3 to host your images. So just real quick, I'm going to click on the S3 settings. You're going to see that it's asking for the access key, secret key, and bucket. If you go to sign up for Amazon S3, we're not going to show you the process of doing that. Just do a Google, YouTube search for how to sign up for S3. But once you sign up, you'll see that there's an area that they show you the access key, secret key, and what the bucket is. So once you add those in there, you can actually, if you click on the image icon and browse server, we give you the option to get into your S3 account and see all the images that you've got hosted on there, or you can upload right through here. Now if you don't want to do all that, then you can host the images wherever you want, and just when you insert the image here, just paste in the URL, and whatever URL would be you put in there, you'll be able to put in the ALT text, which you also want to have city, state, zip code, state short, whatever short codes you're using, and you can set up the alignment, and basically it's what you see, it's what you get type editor. Now obviously the preview text, this is just using the dummy text, so don't think that that's this content that you have in here. It's just going to show you what it looks like, whether it's a line left or a line right or anything like that. So I'm just going to cancel out of here, and we'll scroll down a little bit more. Now we've got a couple options on what's going to go on the sidebar of our website. We can either do random posts, we can do archives, we can do categories, which is just going to show a list of categories, and CLC side widget, which I believe this is going to change shortly, so I'm not even going to mention what that is. But normally what I like to do with mine is have a combination of maybe random post and categories, and you don't need to select anything if you don't want anything on your sidebars at all, but I suggest at least having random posts or categories just to help with the indexing when the Google bot comes through on the site and lands. The random post really helps with the indexing, because every time that it lands, it's going to show them a unique different post for that. Same thing with the categories, it helps with the indexing, because it's going to show all the different 50, 51 categories if you're working with states, or just whatever categories you've got set up, but it's going to show them on every single post, and it just helps with that. You also have the option to just put it in whatever you want in there. If you have a specific code, if you're working with you've got a contact form code or something you want to add on there, you'll be able to just paste the code in there, and it's going to add it to the sidebar. Finally, when you scroll down, you're going to be able to select the site that you want to generate. We've only got one loaded up here, so we're just going to select that one. And then also, like I said, it makes you select a script, so make sure you at least have a blank one on there, or if you have a tracking one, you can select, it will list all the different ones here. Now, before I queue this site, we want to be fully sure that the Cloudflare settings have fully taken into effect. The best way to do that is I'm going to scroll up, I'm going to right click here and open this main one on a new tab. I'm going to go over to my sites, show all sites, and I'm going to hit on edit. So now I've got these site details that I loaded in. I'm also going to go ahead and open up FileZilla, which is just an FTP app. So any FTP app will do. I like to use FileZilla. It's available both for Mac and Windows. And I'm just going to copy these details, the FTP domain, the username, the password. I'm going to hit quick connect, and then this here, I'm going to type it in up here and just hit enter, and make sure that it's taking me to an actual place. If for some reason I get an error anywhere, if I get an error connecting, then my FTP details are incorrect. If I get an error getting to this folder, then my folder setup, my path, is incorrect. So you want to make sure that that's all correct before you deploy the site, so you don't have any issues. Obviously, as you get more comfortable with the app, you won't have to check every single time. You'll know that you didn't make any mistakes. But for your first one, it's just best to check, because this is one of the problems that we tend to see a lot, is the path issue or the FTP details. But once I make sure that that's correct, I can just queue the WordPress site. Right away, usually within a minute or so, if we hit the main, we can see our site should be in the queue. And then after a few minutes, it's going to jump over to number of sites currently generating. At the time that it jumps over to number of sites currently generating, we will receive an email letting us know that the site has started to generate. And then after it's done generating, we will then receive another email letting us know that the site is done generating. So I'm going to wait for those emails to come in, and then I'll pick up the video from there. I have now received the email that the site is now being deployed. I received the first one saying that it was starting, and now that it's finishing up, and it can either lets me visit the site, or logs me straight into WP admin, or we can promote the site. The first thing you want to do is you want to go into the admin area, this WP admin, because you need to log in and make a few tweaks before the site's fully usable. So if you remember, we set up the username and password in the site details. Mine was just a simple admin password 123. Make sure you do set up something more secure. But I'm going to log into the admin area, and the very first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to settings, permalinks, and we're going to save those changes. It just resaves the htaccess file. Make sure that the websites work. If you do not do this part, you're going to visit your site, you're going to visit a post, or if you click on any of the links, you're just going to get a 500 error. So if you see a 500 error, more than likely you did not save the permalinks. The other thing you might want to do is jump over to BWP Sitemaps and just have it, we scroll down, you can set it to ping Google and Bing, but this just does it when it builds new posts, so it doesn't change anything right now. Just if you add any more posts or anything to this, you create a new page or anything like that, it's going to say that, do that. And you also have, if you jump over to plugins, you'll want to activate the Quick Cache plugin. And if you jump over to Quick Cache, you'll want to make sure that it is enabled. It's not going to be enabled by default. This just helps with making sure that you've got cache set up on your site, and with Cloudflare and Quick Cache, the combination, make sure that you have a nice speedy site. Now, my name servers aren't fully propagated, so I'm not able to check, but I'm going to wait a few minutes and then check the website just to make sure that everything's correct. It seems like for some reason on my end, the name servers are taking a little while to propagate, but I logged into one of my remote desktops and I was able to load the site right up. So just maybe something with my cache. I got to refresh the cache on my browser. So just something to keep in mind if you ever run into that issue where it just shows you the basic, the CGI WebSys page or something like that. It could just be something as simple as restarting your computer that will fix it up. But I logged through a remote desktop here, and just to quickly show you the site here, we see the title, the content that I use, we've got the little map, and then also we see here the closing paragraph that I added, plus we've got the tags, and on the sidebar I selected the random post, so every time that I load this page, it's going to show a new set of posts right here on the right hand side. Notice how it changes over there. And then also we have the categories here, so it shows all the different categories that I set up. And if we click on any of this, it's going to list different posts in there. So you just got to make sure you go through, make sure that all the different links are working. But at this point, you've got a working website. And if you want to point it to the landing page, you would just go to the admin, which I've got over on my main computer here. And you take advantage of the plugin that we've given you, which is the WP overlay. This WP overlayer, you would activate it, and under the settings you'd enable it and send it to whatever landing page you want to send it to. Now we'll go into a lot more in depth with this in the actual lead gadget training for the different offers, but this is just to kind of quickly give you an overview once you have a live site, how you would get to funnel that traffic into the specific offers that we've got set up through Lead Gadget for you to promote.